Dustin O'Halloran and Haushcha, you guys are the composers of the new film Lion. Let's talk a little bit about how the two of you got involved with this and how you came to work together on it.
Well, I was in Australia at the beginning. It was actually last year in November, around the same time as now, a little earlier. And Garth Davis, the director of Lion, came to my show. And he after the show we talked about. He said he's doing a movie, and if he would be interested in me maybe scoring the movie. And he also said that he has an idea for a second composer for the second half. And he said, "Do you know Dustin O'Halloran?" And I said, "Of course. Dustin is a very good friend of mine." So he didn't know that we knew each other already for like more than 10 years. And so I was very happy that he was mentioning him, because he's the person I can imagine to collaborate with, I would say, the most, you know.
Mm-hmm. So then what were your guys' initial ideas for the score? Did you get a chance to see the movie first before you started coming up with ideas, or were you already working on it prior to that?
Well, we came into the process more or less when they were getting close to doing a final edit, final cut. So we came in, we were sort of the last people to be involved in the film. Mm-hmm. And we sort of had to pick it up really quickly because they were so far along. And so we had to jump into the whole process, where then they had been living with the film for a long time. But Garth had a lot of our music edited into the film in temp. So there was a part of us already inside the film even before we started, and so we just had to really just kind of get into it. So it was sort of a all-absorbing 2 months of our lives where we just sort of lived and breathed the film for 2 months to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the great things about this movie is how emotional it is. I mean, it's a very powerful story for people who haven't seen the movie. It's all about this young kid in Calcutta who gets separated from his family. 25 years later, he goes back searching for them after he's been adopted by this couple in Australia. So there's a lot of raw emotion to that story. How do you guys convey that emotion through your music?
Well, the first difficulty in it is actually that because the film was already so emotional and so powerful, for us, it was quite difficult to, to find the right tonality and to have a kind of very restrained music that actually supports the feelings in a way, but not like overtaken the emotions too much. So in a way, what we did in the first place, we said that we need at first a couple of weeks to approach the film by ourselves, just to get a pure emotion that Dustin has towards the film and that I have. And then we shared those ideas, and the longer, over the weeks we were exchanging ideas, and then after 3-4 weeks we came together in Los Angeles and we mixed it all together. I think that was a very nice approach to go from a very small, minimal approach to a wider range.
Mm-hmm. And I think for us also the challenge was, because it's such an emotional film, we had to use an incredible amount of restraint. And that was also a choice in Garth's direction that he really chose, I think, with a lot of the film as well. And we needed to find that delicate balance of creating an emotional space, but not making it feel contrived or forced or pushed. And that's a very hard thing to sort of put your finger on. And it was a lot of the film is based on real performances as well. A lot of the pianos that we recorded are complete takes and playing the picture and really just capturing the right performance.
Mm-hmm. There's also a lot of, you guys bring up subtlety. I think of all those moments in the film where it's just Dev Patel's character looking at his laptop, looking at a map, and there's, you can imagine the music being overemphasizing, right, the actions that he's doing. So how do you avoid doing that, if that makes any sense?
Well, Garth was really sensitive to not overstating things, and I think naturally, both Folker and I, we naturally are looking for that as well. I think that the thing that probably connected us all is that we all share a sort of searching. You know, Folker and Haushcha and I are both like looking for honesty in our own music. Garth was looking for honesty in his own film, and I think that that's really where we connect as artists, is that we're all seekers and we seek honesty in some way. So just finding that ability to strip it back, not overplay it, find, you know, the core of the emotion, and I think, you know, also you're putting a lot of yourself into a film like this. This is a film that allows you to put a lot of yourself. So I think that for all of us, it felt very close too, because longing for home and feeling displaced, you know, his story is so epic, but I think it's also emotions that you share. I mean, connection with your family, and especially with your mother. I mean, all of these things are universal feelings. So I think we really were allowed to put a lot of ourselves into this film, which is not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think also it was very, we had also a lot of space, you know, we used in a way with the long chords and the shape of the chords, and to have enough breath to, you know, to actually feel, you know, the character of Death in a way float. There was always the feeling that, you know, even now watching it on a couple of premieres, I always had the feeling that the music in a way represents him thinking and searching, and, you know, finding a kind of getting connected to his longing. And I think that worked pretty well with a minimalistic approach that we've chosen.
One of the things that the film also does very well is it shows you the differences in the cultures, right, from Calcutta and Australia, and the effects that that has on him growing up. How did you convey that in your music?
Well, I mean, the whole history of him in Calcutta is really, I mean, the first half an hour is really touching in a way, because it's, I mean, if something happens to a kid of 5 years old like that, I mean, I think I would die. I mean, that's already, there's already so much, you know, things are happening to him that I have the feeling, in a way, there was for us, never the feeling that we wanted to bring in the Indian historical elements. We always felt like it doesn't really matter where he grew up or in which culture he grew up. It's much more actually the essence of the story that is really, really strong. And so I think the whole score, in a way, I mean, we started a little bit with a more experimental prepared piano that I, you know, what I bring in a lot of times with a lot of like strange sounds. But, you know, I think straight after, like, I think third cue, we are already in the feel of the whole film. And also in the opening, it already starts with in a way, with a whole theme that we, you know, have, that we're developing through the whole film.
And I think, you know, with the way Haushcha works with prepared piano, and this, you know, there's a lot of, and his improvisational techniques. I think that's more, you know, we weren't doing such a cultural difference between India and Australia. It was more of, you know, you're following him more and his emotion, and this kind of him being very clever, and he's very, you know, has a lot of ingenuity, like get through all of these difficult situations. And the prepared piano really, like, I think worked really well to create a sense of that, and you feel the textures of India, you feel the smells, but you don't feel this world music or any kind of cultural musical representation. which was very important for Garth, that we were, you know, in a more transcendental, universal story rather than a story about a, you know, making it, you know, kitschy in this Indian way.
You're right. It does feel universal, which I think is a special quality of the movie. You know, I mean, you really feel for this kid and this young man as you watch him in his search for his family.
Yeah.
You mentioned the opening, and you're right. It does work as sort of an overture to the film, which the opening credit sequence, I mean, which is a really nice touch, I thought. Can you talk a little bit about setting the tone for the rest of the film musically in that sequence?
Well, that, I mean, that is, I mean, it is an overture, which you don't see that much now in films, and it's a little old school, which I like, and but it's nice because it prepares you for this journey that is about to happen, and the shots. If you go back after you watch the film, the opening scenes are all different. The landscape of India and Australia cut together, and I think Haushcha and I developed this theme that represents, you know, a continuing journey. There's movement to it, there's an emotion to it, and it's sort of unresolved. The chords, the way the chords play out and the way they connect is always it can kind of continue and keep going, because even at the end of the film, it's sort of a new beginning. It's not really an ending. So the film has this circular feeling to it, and we wanted to represent that with the opening.
Mm-hmm. So give us some insight into what the collaboration between the two of you was like. I mean, did you split the film up into different sections? You say, all right, I'll work on this part, you work on that part, and then bring it together? Or were you two standing at the piano together like we see George and Ira Gershwin, you know? Or what was your collaboration like?
Well, we you know, we, in a way, in the beginning, we just were working like each individually, and we tried to find out our own approach, but it was pretty clear, you know, while we were exchanging ideas, that at some point we will sit together at the piano and, you know, working on chord changes or trying to figure out what works best. Dustin played some of like the, you know, the one piano takes at the end that are like just one long, like really long take, and in the film it sounds pretty like, you know, that it has to be like it is, but for getting there it was actually like quite a long journey. We just shifted chords just very, very slightly to get a more optimistic feel to it, or, you know, maybe more melancholic feel. So even sometimes just one chord changes the whole, you know, the whole movement. So our collaboration, I think, was very nice because we exchanged a lot of ideas and we were very open to each other, like saying, hey, this is not working, this is good. And I think that's actually wonderful, to work with a companion in a way, to be honest and create the best out of both, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a really emotional film, and it's a lot to carry for one composer in a way. And we didn't have that much time for a film of this scope. So just having both of us working on it, and that we knew each other, we were friends already, it really helped just, I think, carry the energy through the whole film.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is an emotional movie, and one that touches everyone who sees it. As such, it's gotten a lot of awards buzz, and we're in the middle of that right now. Dustin, you just won your first Emmy a couple years ago for Transparent, and you guys could be looking at your first Oscar nomination. What would that kind of recognition mean for the two of you for your work on a film like this?
You know, I think you can't, you know, those things are nice to think about and they're fun, but ultimately when you're doing the work, you always have to just do the best job you can and put what you can into it. And I try not to think about those things too much, and just, I think for me, I'm just very proud to be a part of this film and to share the work with Haushcha, because it's a really beautiful film. And for me, I'm happy with that. Anything that happens beyond that is, you know, it's icing, but I'm just proud of this film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also very nice. I mean, it's great that we can share actually the moments where where we go to premieres, where we can dress up. It's a lot of fun when you can share that, and I would say that's at the moment for me the best thing of the celebration side. Beyond the fact that I really love the work that we've done, and I love the film, and it's something maybe you always look back and you say, hey, that was coming out of the blue in a way, and we just said yes, and now we are here. In where it will lead to, I'm open to any kind of thing. But I'm not paying, as Dustin said as well, not so much attention to it, because it happens or it doesn't happen. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a great movie, and your work on it is phenomenal. Thank you both so much, and congratulations on the film.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.